Hello, and welcome to my rules explanation slash playthrough for Roll for the Galaxy. We'll be doing another slideshow presentation, which will be available on my brand new website, rachelplaysboard.games, where you can find all of my previous slideshows in both PowerPoint and PDF format, as well as all of my videos listed alphabetically by title. There's also, I'm starting like a little blog thing um, where I give my opinion on some board games and other things board game related. So check it out if you feel so inclined. Um, but let's get right into this PowerPoint then. I say, after not getting right into it, what is Roll for the Galaxy? Well, it is a thematic and mechanical cousin to Race for the Galaxy. So kind of under that same, it's in the same universe as Race for the Galaxy. You see a lot of the same sort of ideas. There are a few differences. This is a dice game as opposed to a card game. Um, and this is, so at its heart, it is a civ builder in space. Well, what is this space? What's in space? We've got planets in space. There are 6 planet types, categorized by what they produce. So the main production, the only production planets really, are these 4. We've got novelty planets, rare element planets, gene planets, and alien technology planets. The planet tiles are always going to have this circle, which is going to mean planet or world. The 2-dimensional representation of a sphere, and which is what we call a circle. And if they have a color like this, it means they're one of those 4 types of production worlds, and they will produce that type of good and be associated with that type of good, basically. And you can see kind of the thematic names of the worlds go with that as well. We also have these gray worlds, which don't really produce anything. Like in this case, it's not even really a planet or a world, it's a gateway station. It's going to provide a dice as well, though. It's going to produce a consumption dice. So not necessarily a consumable, as I've written here, but a way to consume consumables, consumption. Not tuberculosis, but material consumption. And military is going to be a red dice, which we will look at later. And that will also be, it can be provided by gray planets, but you can also get military dice from one of the production planets as well. So the idea is that when you settle these planets, you hire their population. I don't know. It's hard. It's hard not to speak of such things that can be wrought, especially when Roll for the Galaxy is in the same family tree as Puerto Rico, which has its own issues in terms of labor and exploitation of people. So let's say that you hire them. You pay them fairly for their labor, like more than fair. Like you pay them for their labor the way that it should be, and not by taking the excess value from their labor. Let's move on to how to conquer space, of course. So we'll be using developments, technologies, which are represented by this diamond. So instead of that circle that we had for the planets, we've got diamonds for technologies. And they range in price from 1 to 6. And they will provide some kind of boost, benefit, points. They'll bend or break the rules in different ways to help you become more efficient and hopefully more successful during the game. So that's kind of what's going on in space. When you're in space, though, you need to have some sort of headquarters for yourself, some sort of space base, if you will. So this is what your space base looks like in Roll for the Galaxy. This is where you'll keep your workforce, you'll keep any projects under construction, and you'll keep track of how many credits you have. Let's talk about these individually. The credits you have are tracked on this track at the bottom of your headquarters. Now, there aren't tangible credits in the game. You'll just move your sort of credit tracker to the right as you accrue them, and then to the left as you spend them. There is a hard limit of 10. If you were to accrue more credits than 10, it doesn't matter. You can't do it. There's a cap. At the end of a round, when you've spent all of them, you'll automatically recycle back up to one. I don't know thematically what that is. Maybe like a galactic government subsidy or something, so that you always have at least one. And you'll use these credits to pay your workforce for their labor. And so, where do you get your workforce from? Besides, like we talked about a few minutes ago, exploiting the labor off of planets that you settle. And you can't see my air quotes, but maybe you can hear them. You're gonna go to your citizenry, and here um, is this citizen. I don't know if they're waving you down to say like, "Hey, I can work," but to me, I get a very strong like Soviet group calisthenic vibe from this guy, especially with all the people behind. So that's what this is. In case you're not familiar with the concept, thanks Getty Images. Um, so this is where your unpaid workers are. You're as yet unpaid. If you pay a credit, you can move one of them into a ready space. So far I feel like we're pretty good thematically, right? Like we've got credits, which makes sense for like space money. You're not gonna have paper money in space. Um, you've got your citizenry, which sounds like a civilization sort of term, right? Where your citizens are. So you'd imagine that the place where your workers who are ready to work would have some kind of like cool sci-fi name, right? Or like some sort of thematic name. Nah, they're in your cup. Those workers are in your cup. Now, in the physical version of the game, you do have an actual cup where you keep your workers because each worker is a die. So you keep your dice in your cup and then you roll them out of your cup like you're Yahtzeeing. But to me, that feels like a bit of a missed opportunity to continue that theme. Like, oh, let me just move. Oh, I paid my citizen credits, so I'm going to move them from the citizenry to the cup. I don't know. At least make it like a acronym or something like citizens underpayment or something like I don't know. It doesn't matter. But that's where your paid citizens are. So anyone's here, you won't have to pay credits for until they come back to the citizenry after they finish the task that you set them. The last thing to think about and to be aware of in your base of operation is going to be these stacks of planned constructions. So you'll have one stack for your technologies, your developments, and you'll have one stack for your planets, your worlds. Um, you'll always build from the top down. So you'll develop from the top down and you're settle from the top down. And anytime you get a new tile, you'll tuck it under, just right under there. Now in this game, tiles are double-sided. So on one side is a development, on the other side is a planet. So depending which side you're going to want to build, either if you choose the development side, you'll put it development side up at the bottom of this stack. If you choose the planet side, the planet to develop, or settle, I guess, you'll put it planet side up under this stack. Great. Excellent. So that's your base of operations. Now, in addition to these, you're not coming from nowhere. Like you're coming from a place already within the galaxy. You're coming from your home world and with the sort of civilization society of your faction. So in this example, we've got some space pirates and they're in a hidden fortress because of course, but also your homeworld is an ancient race. Like this like I don't know, like goat. Is that what goat hind legs look like? I don't know. It's like a flamingo goat. A flamingo. Why did I miss that right away? Okay, anyway. So you'll start with a randomly given faction tile and homeworld, which will provide some benefits, some abilities. We'll talk what these mean later on when we go to language school. And they're variable starting points for the game, right? Like you'll have different focuses based on what your starting tiles are. They can give you some direction as to where to go in the game because there are some choices that you can make. They also start you off with some actual victory points. So this one is 2 victory points already. These 2 are 0. Great. So those are your starting tiles. You'll also start with 2 of the 2-sided tiles, and you'll choose one to be the development and one to be the settle, the planet. And you'll put those in your HQ right from the beginning. Cool. Great. So, what are your options in space? What are you working on in space? How are you going to accomplish your goals in space? Well, you'll take one of 5 actions. You'll use 5 different actions to accomplish your space goals. You will explore, which is represented by this eye. You can develop, which is represented by the diamond, just like the developments. You can settle, just like the circle for the worlds. You can use this, it looks like a barrel, and it is for goods production. Excuse me. So it's producing goods on planets, and this rocket is shipping goods off of planets. That's it. Those are the 5 things you can do. Starting with explore. So when you explore, you have 2 options. You can either scout or stock. When you scout, you take a tile. Remember, they're 2-sided, development on one side, settlement on the other, and you'll choose which side you'll want to construct, development or planet. Then you'll place the tile at the bottom of the corresponding stack. We talked about that already. So if you choose a development, chuck it under there. If you choose a settlement or a planet, chuck it under there. Now, if you choose to take stock instead of scout, then you can take 2 credits. So you'll increase your credit by 2 spaces, which means you'd be able to pay 2 more laborers in the next round. Cool. That's exploring. What about developing? Develop, you'll assign die to develop dice, and any dice that are assigned here, you'll move towards the top card in your development construction pile. Now, what is the cost of a development? Shrewd viewers might have already guessed. It's this cost up here. This is not only victory points at the end of the game, but it's also the cost of a card. So you need 4 workers assigned to this card through the development action in order to move this card from your construction area in your HQ down to your tableau with your starting faction and your homeworld. And then any ability it gives you, anything like that, will be available. They're not available while the location, the development, or the planet is under construction. So that's the development action. Pretty sure you can guess what the next action is going to be then. It's exactly the same, just for planets. So any dice that you have assigned to the settle action will go over here and be placed on your topmost planet. The cost is the same as developments. So you're going to need 4 workers. Basically, I guess the idea is it takes more, like the higher the value of the planet, in this case 4, the more workers it takes to subdue the planet. So you need to assign more people over there. Now let's say that you had, and we'll talk about that actually later. So let's move on to production. So once you have settled a planet and it's moved down and it's in your tableau, you can go to produce to assign a die to an open planet you've settled. So by settled, it means it's no longer in production. It's in your tableau with your homeworld and your faction tile, and it doesn't have a die on it. If it has a die on it already, you can't produce on it. Each planet can only hold 1 die. Okay? Them's the rules. So what do we do with that planet once it has a good die on it? Once the die is on it and it is now goods? Well, we ship it. We can trade it, which is spend a die from the planet and receive its trade value in credits. So novelty goods are worth 3, rare elements are worth 4, genes are worth 5, and alien technology is worth 6. Although really, in the galaxy, I feel like all technology is alien technology. But so this one, if we were to sell it, if we were to trade it, it would be worth 4 credits, which is not bad. We can also ship it for points, so we can consume it. When we consume from a planet, we will score 1, 2, or 3 points. We'll always score a base of 1 because we're consuming. We could get a potential additional point if this goods die is the same color as the planet. In this case it is, so we're at 2 points, 1 plus 1. And we could get a potential 3rd point if the die that we used over here to activate the shipping action is the same color of the planet. So if we triggered this action with a brown die, that would be 3 points. If we triggered it with a blue die, we would only get 2 points. 1, the base point, plus 1 for this die matching the color of the planet. So that's how we ship. So we know sort of what we can do in space, but we don't know when to do it. So let's talk about time in space. Time in space. Time is linear in space. So each round is always going to go in the same direction. We're going to go roll, assign, reveal, phases, and then we'll do some management stuff. So let's talk first about rolling. We are going to roll all of the dice that are in the citizens underpayment in the cup. And this is what each of the faces of the dice look like. So white, our starting dice, everybody starts with, I believe I want to say it's 5 of these. It might be fewer. You'll see they have all 5 of the basic symbols on them, right? All 5 of the actions with an extra explore. Great. Our novelty does not have develop or settle. It's got 2 produce and 2 ship, and this asterisk is a wild. You can do whatever you want. You can put that in any action. And so that's the novelty goods. The brown dice are rare elements dice. We've got an explore action, 2 develop actions, produce, a ship, and a wild. So this one's more focused on using those rare elements to increase our technological prowess. Whereas our gene planet is going to be focused more on settling, more on subduing the life on other planets. So we've got 2 settle actions and 2 wild actions. So that's fun. Our alien technology dice is the only one that doesn't care about exploration, right? We've got develop, settle, produce, and 3 wild. So you could care about it if you wanted to, but like half of it can be used anywhere. It's a very good dice. Consumption dice, right, is going to have 1 explore, 1 develop, 3 consume with a wild. So potentially you have a 2/3 chance of rolling a consume action if you include that wild in there, which is why it's the consumption. And then we have our red military dice, which does not care about shipping and does not care about production. It only cares about developing technologies and subduing planets, right? Settling planets. And so they're all pretty thematic in that regard. And you can try to hedge your bets on what sort of actions you'll get based on which ones are in your cup, which ones you get from your citizenry in your cup by paying for the credits. So then you roll them and you get a face value. Well, what do you do with these dice that you've rolled? Well, we'll move on to the second step, assign. These 2 steps, rolling and assigning, are done in secret. You do them simultaneously to other players, but in person they're done behind a shield, and online the game can be your shield. What basically too, if you're doing this in person, you're trusting that the other players that you're playing with are not cheating, I guess, with the dice. They're not moving the faces so that it works better for them. If you're worried that the people that you're playing with might potentially cheat at this game with you, I might humbly recommend that you play a different game, because that's no way to live. That's no way to live. Okay, so let's talk about assigning these dice. Let's look at this example first. I rolled 3 dice. I rolled 3 white dice, and I got 2 settle circles and 1 ship. Now, what I need to do is I need to choose one of these 5 actions that I want to ensure is going to be activated this round. And I can only do that with 1. So I will take any of my dice and I will put it on this track on the one that I definitely want to happen. So in this example, I want 2 workers to go to settle a planet, but not 3. If I wanted 3, I would have kept this one down here, and I would have just moved this up here. Because, as you can see in this example, the dice that you choose which action you want to activate does not need to match the action. You're just using a body to activate it. That's it. And it becomes that action. So this is now a settle action, and settlement will definitely happen. In this case, settle will definitely happen. Ship, it might happen. Who knows? If another player assigns their like action dice up here, then this will happen. And me going here will make it so that anyone who has dice in the settle, even if they haven't activated it, they'll be able to use those dice for the settle action. All right. So this example, we know how that production got over here because any dice can go on any space above this line, right? On this track. And you can only have one die on this track. So let's see what's going on over here. We got a little bit of we got some more dice happening. We want to develop, obviously, we want develop to happen. So we've moved one of our settle dice up here to make sure, to guarantee that development is activated. Now you might notice that this production barrel is under explore. How curious. Well, those of you who read ahead will notice that it's just been dictated. What you do is you choose one of your dice, you put it back in your cup, and then you can move another of your dice to any action you want. It doesn't have to be the one that you just dictated from. It doesn't have to be the one you chose. It can go anywhere. So in this case, we've got 6 dice out here now, but when the dice were initially rolled, there were 7. And the 7th one was put back in the cup so that we could dictate the production die over to explore. I don't know why. It's an interesting show. I have no idea what's going on with this. But maybe the person who played this figured that another player would activate explore, so they put some workers there. I don't know. It's hard to tell. So that's a sign. So we've rolled, we've assigned. Now we're going to all reveal. So once everyone has assigned, everybody reveals, and you can see what other people chose. So in this case, this player has chosen to activate production, and this player has chosen to activate settling, right? And clearly they had some sort of reassignment here, probably dictate, but I don't know. So in a 3-player, 4-player, 5-player game, you'll just take whatever anybody chose. In a 2-player game, you'll roll an additional white dice separate from everything, and whatever it comes up with, that will also activate. So let's say, for example, if I roll a dice and I activated development, right, from this, then development will activate. Any dice under development will activate. This player has activated settle, so any dice under settle will activate, and any dice under production are going to activate. The dice under the 2 actions that were not activated, explore and ship, will go back in the cup because you paid for them, right? You paid credits to move them from the citizenry into the cup, but you didn't use them. So they haven't fulfilled any sort of task, so they go back in the cup so you can use them next round. So this player will be moving 2 dice into the cup, and this player will be moving 1 die into the cup. All right. Roll, assign, reveal. So next, let's go ahead and resolve the phases. So we'll go left to right, 1 to 5, resolving any of the phases that were activated that turn, right? So in this case, any dice that are under explore will trigger first. Now this game, one of the things that I like about this game is that it scales pretty nicely. Adding new players, like adding more players to a player count, doesn't exponentially add to the time played because everybody takes their turns simultaneously. So everyone will explore at the same time, right? So for each die that you have under an action that has been activated, you can do an action. So in this case, this player doesn't have any dice under explore, so they won't be doing any exploration actions. This player has 2 though, so they could scout twice, they could stalk twice, they could scout and stalk, they could stalk and scout. It's up to them. Easy, easy. Once everyone has finished that, we move on to the next one. So in this case, This player, these are from 2 different rounds. That's why this is X'd out. So then this would trigger development. This dice would move to the development, the topmost development. That's the citizenry. So development's like over here. The topmost tile in the development. This, and then when, similar thing with the settlement, once the settle is triggered, those dice will go to the topmost. Now, let's say, for example, that you have you have 2 planets in your construction area for planets. The top one only needs 1 more worker, and the bottom one only needs 1 worker, period. So if you were to send both of these, you would send one to the top one for the second, like to be the last worker. All those workers would clear off of the planet. They'd go back into your citizenry, and then that planet would come down into your tableau. That would reveal the next planet, which only costs 1 worker. So you send this worker over there. It's finished. So you move that worker back to the citizenry, and that planet also joins your tableau. So you could develop, the same rules apply for developing. You could develop several developments in 1 turn. You could develop several planets in 1 turn, which is different from Race for the Galaxy. In Race for the Galaxy, you could only play 1 card per those actions. This one, as many workers as you have there, you can go ahead and chuck them in. Production works similarly. Any dice that you have for each one, you can put it on a planet that can take a dice, as long as it doesn't already have one on it and it's not in your construction space. And here, shipping. This, for each dice you have, you can ship 1 good from 1 planet. So this would let me ship this one. And if I sold it, I would get 5 money, because green die are worth 5 credits, so bleep, blah, 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 blah. If I consumed it for points, if I used this die, I would get 1 point base, plus 1 point for this one matching, but this one doesn't match, so I would get 2 points for consuming this. Upon consumption, or upon trading, those dice that you used go back into your citizenry. Same with exploration. Any dice that you successfully use that you get some benefit from, they're going to go back into your citizenry. Any dice that you don't use. So for example, let's say that in this case, shipping wasn't activated and neither was exploration. This dice, they're all going to go back into the cup, which we talked about earlier. Great. So what do we do after our phases? Well, we're going to do a brief management phase to round out the round. We're going to do the 3 re's, and then we're going to check for any of the in-game conditions. So the first re is recruit. That's where we look at the number of credits we have, and we are compelled, I guess by like threat of strike, to employ that many dice from the citizenry into the cup. So in this case, I have to pay for 3 workers to get work. So I would choose which 3 I wanted, put them in the cup, spend that 3, and then once I'm done, that'll go back up to 1. Like I was talking about earlier with, like, I guess the government subsidy to make sure I can always pay at least 1 worker to go into the cup. That's recruit. Recall is you can take any dice from planets under construction, developments under construction, or that are being used as goods on a planet, and put them back in your cup. You haven't received any benefit from them yet, right? They haven't been used to build the building or the development, and they haven't, or successfully, like to completion, right? And this hasn't been sold, traded, or consumed, so it can go back in the cup so you can try it again another time, which isn't super efficient, but it's an option. So recruit, recall, and reset. All of these will be marked as unavailable until the next reveal, when we find out which ones are available. And in the physical game, you have big versions of them that everybody can see, that you like flip over and you're like, okay, this round we're doing this, this, and this, or this round we're only doing this. Then you'll check for the in-game conditions, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. But first, we haven't really talked about anything specific about the cards. We've talked about how the game moves in big general movements, but in order to get into the details, we need to go to Galactic Language School. Whoops a doodle. Too far. Whoa. Okay. So the cards all employ galactic pictographs, much like Race for the Galaxy. It relies heavily on this system of pictographs. And they create a grammatical shorthand that says shorthand. Okay. Shorthand for actions and abilities within the game. I mean, it might be a shorthound. Maybe that's like a space dog. It's like a little shorthound. But that's not, I will make a note to fix that. Grammatical shorthand. Okay. I don't know how that wasn't flagged with spell check. Okay. So grammatical shorthand for actions and abilities within the game. So let's look at them a little closer. Let's look at our planet pictographs. There's basically three basic pictographs that you'll see. And they show when you settle a planet, typically it'll provide you with workers, right? Because you are hiring the local workforce. So what it'll do is it'll show what color of worker dice you'll get and where you should put it once you have successfully settled the planet. So in this case, you get a green die in your cup, you get a blue die in your citizenry, you get a brown die on the planet itself. Great. So that's what those pictographs are. Very straightforward. So that's like our A1 if we're using the Common European Framework for how for galactic language, right? Let's move up to kind of like a B1, B2, like an intermediate level, the development pictographs. They'll typically have a power that only affects one phase. And if it does, it'll have this sort of timeline of phases and it'll highlight which phase it affects. And it'll be printed on the tech as well, in addition to any further instructions. So let's look closely at terraforming robots and see if we can translate what those pictographs are saying. We see the pictographs for settle, right? We see the circle. We see construction, which is represented by this wrench. One is white and one is brown. And we see the credit symbol and an arrow moving to the right. So this could be read as receive a credit, right? Because when you move it to the right, you've increased by one, so you've received a credit. Receive a credit when you finish settling a planet, so when you successfully construct a planet, and an additional credit if you've constructed a brown planet. So if you have this in your tableau, when you finish sending workers to settle a planet, you get a dollar. And if it's a brown planet, you get $2. Well, what useful little robots those are. Let's look at something a little more complicated. Let's look at the Merchant Guild. It's similar to the terraforming robots. We know that it takes place in the fourth phase, which is our production. We see our little barrel, we see our credit symbol, and we see two arrows to the right this time. So we know produce, credit move right twice. Well, we can read that as get 2 credits during this phase. Now this tile does not have a condition like the previous one did. The previous tile was conditioned, right? Was dependent upon settling and completing a planet. This one is just if the production action triggers, you get 2 money because the Merchant Guild is giving you money. And that sounds corrupt to me, but I'm not going to tell that to that giant armored lizard. I'm not an idiot. Great. So that's the Merchant Guild. That's what these pictographs mean. Now, we can also have a situation where it's not specific to one phase, which means it's probably going to have to do with reassignment. So let's look at what pictographs we have here. We have 2 any color dice. That's what the rainbow means, any color. We have a windy arrow. And then we have those 2 dice again under the phase selection board, right? And it's hard to tell because it's pixelated, but that's what it is. It's those 5 put together. So we can read this as reassign 2 dice of any color to any phase. You don't have to dictate. So you don't have to move a dice back to your cup in order to be able to do this. Nanotechnology just lets you say, you know what? I don't want this dice to be an explore dice. I want it to be a settle dice. And now it is. Ta-da! So we see this specifics with this, right? We see this rainbow color. We see the 2 over here. Let's look at a card that has similar pictographs, but is not exactly the same. And we can figure out the grammar of that one. So we've got 1 dice here instead of 2. It's white instead of multicolored. We've got that same reassign arrow. And we've got 1 white dice here under the action select instead of 2 rainbow dice under 2 action selects. So what does this mean? You can reassign 1 white dice to any other phase. So one of the starter dice. You can't use one of the colored ones specific to a planet. Which, I mean, it's still powerful in its own right, but you can see it's only 2 powerful, right? It's only 2 value powerful as opposed to 5. Plus, the dude in this picture, it doesn't look nearly as powerful as the dude in that one. So those are some examples of what those can look like. Now, there's another type of development that we should talk about, and it's a 6-dev. And 6-devs not only have some sort of bonus down here in the same place that all the other developments do, they'll also have an end game scoring condition up at the top. So they're worth 6 points just for building them, plus points for this, for meeting this condition. So let's take a look first at the in-game ability as opposed to the end game condition. So during the production phase, we have 2 dice, rainbow dice, and an any colored circle. So the circle, of course, we know represents planets. We already know that from earlier, because anytime we see the circle, it has to do with planets. So this is saying when you produce, you can have 2 goods on a planet instead of the limit of 1 that we usually have. Interesting, all right. Thematically, it makes sense. Galactic reserves, you can have more goods in a place if there's a reserve. Cool. Well, let's take a look at what this end game scoring is telling us then. So we have 1 colorful dice, 1 colorful circle, and 1 victory point. So this is saying at the end of the game, you get 1 victory point per good on a planet. That's pretty big. The card is allowing you to stockpile, right, to make reserves on planets, and then it's rewarding you for doing that at the end of the game by giving you a point per stockpiled good. Typically, at the end of the game, you won't get any points for goods still on planets. You need to have consumed them for planets, consumed them for credits before the end of the game. There are several 6-devs in the game that'll have different in-game abilities and different in-game conditions and different in-game abilities. This sounds too similar. I have to make sure those words are different. So how do we end the game, right? How do we know when we're going to factor in those end-game conditions? Well, you might recall we've got 5 steps in a round, right? We've got roll, assign, reveal, phases, and then manage. Within manage, we have our 3 re's: recruit, recall, and reset. We also have check for in-game conditions. Well, what are those in-game conditions? Either someone has 12 or more tiles in their tableau, and that includes their home planet and their faction tiles. So this player has 12, right? Or there are no more victory points in the pool. So you might recall whenever you are shipping and you get victory points for shipping, like this one, if I used a white dice to ship it, I would get 2 points, right? 1 point base, 1 point because these 2 colors match, and then no point for the white. I would get 2 victory points. The way I keep track of that is by taking victory point chips from the victory point pool. There are 12 points in the pool per player. So if you check and there are no more victory points in the pool, the game is over at that point. And again, same if someone has 12 or more tiles in their tableau. So what do we do when the game's over? Well, we got to figure out who won. We got to look at winning the game. So we need to calculate the winner. You're going to add victory points from completed, not in your construction, but only ones that have made it down to your tableau. Completed planets, developments, and 6 dev end game conditions. You're going to add those to any victory point chips you scored during the game. So let's do a little sample here, right? So we're going to add planets. 2 plus 0 is 2, plus 3 is 5, plus 1 is 6, plus 4 is 10. So that's 10 points from planets. From developments, we have 0, plus 2 is 0, plus 6 is 8. Wonderful. And then from 6 dev in-game conditions, we know this one, Galactic Reserves, is 1 victory point per good on cards at the end of the game. So 1, 2, plus 2 more, that gives us 20 points. That's a low score. I mean, we only have 8 tiles out, so that's your score at the end of the game. You compare with the other players as you do in any other game. The winner has the highest score, and in case of a tie, you'll add up the dice still in the player's cups and any credits remaining. If there's still a tie at that point, everyone wins. Well, not everyone. The people who are tied. Or everyone. I don't care. Say everyone wins because, I mean, nobody was like a clear winner. So, I don't know. But, so that's how you play the game. Again, this PowerPoint will be available on my website. There's a link in the description below. And let's go ahead and move right into the playthrough on Board Game Arena with one or more strangers. All right, so this is our setup. We have this tile. All reassigned power developments require 1 fewer developer to complete. That's exciting. We get a green die in our cup. We get a consumption die in our citizenry. So here we have a reassigned power, which will only cost us 1. If we flip them, we get a ship. Not interested. Great. So we definitely want to develop that. I also would like to explore. I'm going to assume that they're going to develop. That's a good develop to get out early. They have a production world because they're in the space mall. Okay, let's just see what happens. Let's just see. Great, both of mine were triggered. Oh, because there was an additional white die was rolled, which triggered develop. Okay, so I'm gonna scout for new tiles then. +2 for each good you trade this turn from a novelty world. I don't have one of those. So let's get an alien planet. Oh no, that's fine. So we just have a developed dice that wasn't used. Eef. So this is a 6 dev. When you complete a world, you get all of the military back. Oh, I forgot about that. So you can turn in a tile as within your scout action. You can turn in a tile to look at a new one. Great. So we can reassign 1 worker to develop. Well, that's not useful. We don't have anything in develop right now. So we're going to look for settle. So we're going to take a white one. Actually, we need to explore. We need to explore a lot. So we get some more planets. This person is way better at this game than I am. It's a mean looking cat. Great. Let's explore again. What's this one? Galactic Federation. So when you're developing, Oh, when you finish the development, you can move 2 dice from that development back to your cup. Dang, that's good. That's the thing. I need more developments, I think. They're very beneficial. What's the white die gonna say? Develop. Yay. Let's get new tiles. It's another reassign. Fine. And oh, let's look at some more. It's a ship. That's fine, I guess. I don't know what the 5th column. Do you just get a military die in your cup? But I don't know what the 5th column alludes to. Is that an illusion? Like the 5th estate? 5th. I'm gonna Google it on my telephone. 5th column. A group within a country at war who are sympathetic to or working for its enemies. Can you imagine? Cool. Reassign 1 worker. It doesn't matter. Whatever I do, I gotta sell. I gotta put an explore so I can get some money. Because I don't have enough to make my people work. Done. It's easy enough. That guy must be in the 5th. I'm kind of obsessed with the 5th column right now. What is that an allusion to, I wonder? Like, where does that come from? Explore, settle, explore. Yeah. Give me my money, please. 5th column. Originated in Spain. Originally Quinta Columna. During the early phase of the Civil War, it gained extreme popularity in the Loyalist faction since early October 1936. Its first identified appearance was in a secret telegram. Ooh. All right, I can do 3 planets or 3 things. What do I want to do? Want to settle that world? I need more. These. We're going to explore some more. See that one, and that one. We got to explore to get some money. Okay, we'll do this, and I got local subsidies, so we'll just do that. Great. Beautiful. All right. So apparently Franco allegedly claimed there were 4 nationalist columns approaching Madrid, and the 5th column waited to rise from the inside. Interesting. The famous 5th column. Well, let's scout new tiles. Diversification. You can reassign 1 starting worker from explorer phase. I mean, that guy's only 1. Ugh, fine. I'm gonna abandon this one. I'm gonna scout a new one. Choose as what and which order these tiles will be placed in your construction zone. Don't care about the free trade association. True. Yeah, we'll take that guy. I guess we'll take smart robots. And then we'll take some money, if you please. And well, we're just gonna basically do that again. We want to develop and explore. What's this person gonna do? They're gonna develop. Okay. Because look, they're almost done with this. There's no reason for them not to finish it. So we'll put that in explore, and we'll put that in develop, and we'll get diversification. Yes. Yes. Wonderful. Okay, yeah, let's scout new tiles. Dang it. We'll go ahead and get that one. And we'll stock up again. Just do the same thing over and over. And we'll get that out. I guess we can try to rush it. That might be our best bet. To try to rush the game by getting 12 before they do. I got a ton of reassign. I'd like to get the reassigned 6 dev. That'd be super cool if there was such a thing. Well, let's just do these. Wouldn't mind settling. I wouldn't mind developing. Can reassign wherever I want, basically. Oh, I can reassign one to develop, one white one wherever I want, and one white one from explorer wherever I want. What's this one gonna do? Probably develop. Information tech is pretty good. So then we'll just do this. Because I need money. Ship. Okay, so all we're doing is exploring. Just give me some money. Now, since my development and my settle action didn't happen, those 2 dice went back into my cup. So now we can get more dice out. Ugh, those are terrible. What do I want to do? I could settle that planet. Right? Hold on. Reset. Yeah. If I do this, I move that, and I move that. I can settle this. Let's do that. Explore, and what is the extra die? Develop. So they're exploring. We're going to settle this guy, which will give us an alien technology on planet, right? On the planet. So what we need to do, we need to ship. So we're going to use the tuberculosis consumption die. Yay. The problem is we want to ensure that that happens. Well, we'll do that. Go on then. And we'll just move this here in case settle triggers. I'm gonna drink something. Yeah. That's fine. And so we will trade it for 6 money, which is all of our workers, which is great. We can start really stretching out here. I would like to explore more. That is fair. I'm going to say let's I don't see why they wouldn't trigger develop. I could have 3 in planets. I'm not going to have any goods on anything. So let's do that. Let's move this to explore. Let's move that to develop. Yes. All right, so we're definitely developing and settling, and the robot world explore. Hey, that worked out really well. Let's do propaganda campaign. Let's scout. Let's do sure. Let's do the deserted library. And then let's take some money. Great. So we got this. You can reassign 1 worker to explore or produce. We had a lot of little baby reassign developments. We really need to pick up the pace if we want this to be like a... If I'm trying to rush the game by just building a bunch of little piddly nonsense, then I need to up it. Well, I have enough cards. I don't need to explore anymore. I'm building both of these. That's 2 workers. And these 2 are 5 workers. That's how much money I have. I could do it. Oh yeah, and I got those extra military workers too from these two planets. I could end it this turn. Is that what I want to do? Could I get 8? No, I can get 7. Well, then we'll just look for develop. Yeah, that one, that one, that one, that one, no. Oh boy, he really wants us to settle. Those 6 points would be nice. Hmm. Get 2 money. Hmm. I would need do that. We do that. What? All right. Let's do that, and we'll move that there. I have so many reassigned powers. Yes. Oh, that's good. Oh no, it's not. I didn't do the. Yeah, I did. Okay, so we're triggering develop, which is fine. I don't have any dice to develop. We're triggering settle, which is great because I settled that. I get 2 money, and I have a ship action. So I will ship this for money. I'm just gonna get a crap ton of workers. What do I want to do? I'm gonna develop. What do I think they're gonna do? This is for development points. They have 2. I think they're gonna develop. So we're definitely gonna use those 2. We'll throw that guy out there. Throw these 2 in. And we'll throw some white dice in, because those are the ones that I have most of my reassigned powers for. Okay. Fine. Fine. So I'm gonna trigger explore. And I'm gonna move that there. And I can move 1 anywhere. So I'm gonna move that there. 1, 2, there's 5 here. So we'll move that there. 4. We'll dictate this one to come here. And that should do it. They chose develop, just like I thought they would. But I only have 5 power. Huh. That's fine. Merchant Guild. No. I don't know what I'm looking for. Something with more points. Doesn't matter. Okay, those are fine. And then I'll develop these. Both of those. Hopefully that leaves me with more points than they would have with their 6 dev. Oh! I almost never win this game. Alright. It's a good game. I've played enough of these that I should be better at it. Good game. I'm a nice person. Okay, let's take a look at sort of our in-game situation here with the scores. So the tiles, points on tiles. Let's look at the final situation. So we just add up all the points, right? 2, 4, 7, 9, 11, 12, 16, 18, 19, 21, 27, 34. So that's where we get that from. I didn't have any 6 devs. I didn't have any victory point chips, and neither did they. We didn't do any selling, any consuming. Final tile count, doesn't matter. Final dice number, I had 11, they had 8. They rolled 49 dice though, and I only rolled 48 because there were those rounds where I was only rolling like 1. I recruited 37 and they recruited 28. So they were able, remember they had those ones that let them, this one, let them put them back in the cup. So they had a very efficient setup. I wasn't efficient, I was sloppy, but Just a 1. Um, dice really used for an action. Dice returned unused. Dice recalled, we didn't do. Dice used to scout and stock. So they were pretty even. I didn't need to do those last 3 scouts. I don't know what I was thinking. Dice used to develop. They had a lot of dice. Again, they got them back though. Used to settle worlds. They didn't settle any worlds. They didn't settle any worlds? That's ridiculous. See, this game seems very unbalanced. And then dice used to trade because I got money. Great. Interesting. There were 11 rounds. That's it. That's the game. It took 17 minutes. So that's Roll for the Galaxy. The dynamic is a little different with more players, of course. And that player was going for something, which was good for them. I wish they had got it. Well, hopefully that was helpful. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.